Maxon booth. I am Matthias, aka Major VFX, on all the social medias. We are streaming live, for those of you who don't know. Hi, Internet. I'm here with the one, the only Paul Gaboury. We've known each other since his start at ZBrush, and before I actually was even at Maxon. So long time, amazing community builder, amazing artist. I don't need to really introduce him because everybody knows the iconic work of this gentleman here, but I'll let him show you what he does. Okay. Please give a warm welcome to Paul Gaboury.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I got to come up with an AKA now, okay? I feel the pressure to come up with this AKA stuff now. Here we go. All right, everyone buckle up. This is going to be some fun. We're going to show the switchblading in essence of what ZBrush can do, of a lot of stuff in the different ways. I'm going to show a bunch of just different features today, show you guys what really the application's all about, especially that we're a digital sculpting application, being able to push and pull. So I'm going to start stuff with relatively some easy stuff, and then we're going to build and build and build and build, and depending on our time and how we go here, we'll see what we have. So in fact, I'm going to turn that off because we don't need to save. I'm confident I'm pretty okay with that. All right. So ZBrush, for those of you who don't know, is a sculpting application allowing us to, in essence, have a ball of clay, which I have right now, and I want to be able to start shaping and moving things around. So the idea here is having a freedom and not worrying about technical things or things like a polygon and an edge loop and all this stuff. So I'm going to be using this again, and I'm going to use one of our most popular features, which is ArrayMesh. Okay, so this is a feature that's going to allow us to just change the shape of stuff and not have to worry about running into things. So the move brush is obviously something very simple to use. I can just start shaping my shape. So if I want to start, say, making a human skull, I can just start moving around and start pulling on this. And I'm not worried about what is happening to the surface. So if I turn on our polyframe, you can see it's being stretched. If I go, we're going to get really extreme here, so don't worry. If I start doing stuff like this, I can actually tell ZBrush, hey, relook at that, give me more clay, as I like to call it, right? So this is kind of like a blocking out brush for me, just trying to get that shape real fast, smoothing some things out. Then I like to switch to something like our clay buildup brush. You know, I don't know if you know this, but we cry in our orbital bone. It's a little bit of a crying happening, right? And then I got to start building up some bone structure through here for our nose, starting having a bridge. So you can see it's just about moving quickly, about getting the shapes that you're going to need to have, okay? If I'm starting to build something like a human skull in this case, right? And of course, right now I'm just doing this off like some memory of me doing skulls from time to time, right? Which I think this, for those that are never used, people always ask me, what's the best way and the quickest way to learn ZBrush? I find like doing some studies, simple studies like a human skull, because we all have them and they're easy to find references, is a great way to do this. And I am going, so just starting to move things around, that looks beautiful, gorgeous, right? So, but obviously we want to have some reference, okay? So I want to have the ability to bring things in to actually use as a reference. So we happen to have some preset things like a human skull in here, okay? So these are now images that I have in here. So we're gonna undo and go back all the way to the beginning, okay? And what I'm gonna do now is, instead of just doing this by eye, I'm gonna use these images in here. So for me, I wanna be able to see what I'm trying to match to as quick as I can and just moving those shapes really fast. So I'm gonna come in the draw palette where our floor grid lives. This is where this is at. And then there are different modes. So I'm gonna tell it mode 3, and now I can see through the shape and be able to see what I'm looking at. I do have the controls to change the mesh, okay, volume, and then you can also change the image. So a lot of times you'll hear the word, that magical word, silhouette. So this is a great way of being able to just focus on this first portion of the skull and really starting to figure it out. So this does work symmetrically, of course. Here we'll bounce that back up because now you guys can't see very well. There you go, up there. Okay, so this is a symmetrical. So as I'm doing one side, it's doing the other side. Okay, so if I was shaping this and I start shaping this and figuring out how to get that shape to the images, and I went a little too aggressive with that. There we go. And start figuring out just quickly the shape of this human skull, right? The thing that I have here that I gotta be paying attention to is we're in 3 dimensions, of course, right? So if we're looking at the floor, if I'm pulling in here, I don't want something like that happening down the middle. So we're always thinking in a way of like the way we would work as an artist. So for example, I'm gonna switch to a completely different brush. This is the move infinite. And what that's going to allow me to do is as I move here, I know that it's going across the whole mesh, wherever it is, okay? So here I'll turn off the floor. So if I come like this and I pull out like that, you'll see I am getting consistent pull across the whole surface. So this is kind of also an important feature for me to just start quickly again, shaping up, getting a general shape of a skull head, right? And moving your positions, okay? You might also turn off perspective so that you can just look at the shapes. And this is why I'm using this Dynamesh mode, because I want to just keep changing the shape and then using brushes to finally get where I want it to be through here. So we're just going to quickly sculpt this up now, and I'm going to start building up now other portions of this skull, because it's not going to be enough of just like this. So now shapes, and then this obviously has every view that I have. So then this is again, once I'll start switching to something like this, start putting in those orbital bones and start matching that. I want to start landing bone structure in here, through here, and then I'll keep re-dynameshing, as we call it. So again, I'll turn off the floor. So this is building up the surface. And as I'm going here, I keep adding that volume to the surface so I can keep playing on what I'm trying to make. And then in a few minutes, right, you can start really making something happen here. So this is your zygomatic. Put a little area in there. We got to start making some stuff for your mandible, right? So we'll put the floor back on again and start again looking at this and start shaping this a little bit more what I want in here. Okay, good, right? And then now I'm going to start coming through here, put a little bit in here. So you can see this is about having a ball of clay and then just quickly adjusting things, moving things around, dynamically pushing into this, right? Switching to other brushes. The Trim Dynamic is a really nice brush to start blocking things out. Kind of, if you're anybody out there that are artists, getting the planes of something, right? So this brush is really good for the planes. Now, there's going to be a point here where I just don't have enough, in essence, clay, right? It's really still getting very faceted, right? When I look at this, it's got some faceting in here. What I'm talking about that is this look in here. So the Dynamesh has a resolution to it, right? So this slider over here is saying its resolution set at 64 right now. So that's just saying how much clay do I get to have while I'm trying to block this out and get this going, okay? So I'm gonna say, hey, let's give some more. So I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna double it, 128, why not, okay? And then, we care, so you gotta, touch the sculpt a little bit and then you can update it. And now what we've done is added more clay or polygons in this case. So that way when I start now refining this a little bit more, right, I can really start to shape this up. And again, start switching to other brushes, really get that bone structure to kind of land. I think it's so important as a sculptor too to understand bone structure as much, because it really is going to be beneficial. So you just start moving around the surface, start shaping that up, getting a little bit. And this is why also things like this ZBrush is used in the medical field. It's used in the medical world all the time. Then I'll start switching to another brush, which this is one of the popular ones from the user groups, the users. This is the Damien standard brush to really start really hammering in some of these details. And you can see in minutes here, live, on the floor, we're making a skull. You too can make a skull. Huh? All right. By the way, sound effects are so important when you're sculpting. Whoosh, just really brings you right in to the piece. It really hits home, right? So this is all just, I've done a lot of skulls over the years, doing this, and as an instructor too. Again, I can't harp this. This is a great, in fact, my students, I give them 15 minutes to sculpt a skull. That's it. They get 15 minutes, go, right? And I usually have them do 5. So that's your homework's an hour. Come on, you can do an hour of homework, right? And you can see the progression of movement, right? Because the really goal here I want them to have is just understand switching brushes, switching a couple things. As you notice, I've only been using a couple brushes to do something like this. I haven't been getting really in the nitty gritty of a lot of the brushes in here, okay? So we start doing things like this, and I can keep going all day on this if we wanted to, right? So the next step would be, once I have something that I kind of enjoy and I'm kind of landing what I want, and we can put a little, this is my art now coming, I can't not look at this and not do this. And if that even makes sense online, I don't know, probably does not. So and then I would probably, again, say, hey, let's do some more move. To see my eye is now seeing things, and I just want to make adjustments now. Okay, so as we move along here, there's going to be a point where maybe I want to get out of this mode because I really want to get high levels of detail, right? So I'm going to come out of a mode that's our Dynamesh mode. So now I don't have the ability to just swipe and add more clay. I want to have now a little bit cleaner topology. So I've been making some major landmarks here, and now I want to say, hey, those are important to me, so I'm going to remesh this because I want to get now a flow. So if we look at this, these are just, Dynamesh is kind of, the thing about it is like a grid, and we're just giving the exact same size, pretty much the same polygons across the board, so it gives a consistent, beautiful sculpt no matter where you go. Again, this is probably the #1 favorite feature in all users of ZBrush. It's used by everybody. So I want to remesh this, and you're going to see the difference here when this is done, and you can see specifically, right, you start getting rounded, nice flow in there, which makes sense, because as we start adding more and more to this, we're going to want that. If I want, getting a nice flow through here, because I want to start adding a mouth, you're going to need that flow topology going that way. But now this has opened up other things for me as well, right? So let's have some more fun with this guy. And I'm going to say, let's divide it up now. So we're going to add, the difference here is I'm creating levels of information. So I'm calling subdivision levels is what we're calling this. So I've got 4 levels. So we're sitting at 577,000 polygons, give or take, right? And we can go up even more. I'm at 2.3 million. Again, you can go to 100 million per mesh in ZBrush. If you want to use HD geometry, you can actually go to 1 billion with a B if you really want to, right? So all those films you guys are seeing, a lot of those artists are using HD geometry and like pushing it, right? Because the characters now, digital characters have to carry films through. So this is sitting around 2.3 million, which in the grand scheme of things isn't much. So reason why you have this ability is as an artist, if I now really want to start defining things, right? You're going to see some really sharp angles now through here. Like if I start really pumping that zygomatic bone out a little bit more, okay, you're really having enough information to go there. But as I'm working as an artist, I might see something that's off. Like that is the smallest jaw right now on the planet. That is totally not even accurate, okay? So I would need to go, well, that's not accurate. I would need to drop down. So what I've done is I've dropped down in the levels, and I'm sitting at like 9,000, right? So I'm sitting at pretty low numbers. Why we're doing this, okay, is so that, that is completely off. You don't know what you're doing. And now I can make big adjustments through here, okay? And then I am doing it at a lower level instead of trying to do it at the denser level to get that right size where I need. Oh yeah, that's perfect, right? And then I'm doing this all at a certain level. And then what's the nice thing about this is multi-resolution. So when I walk back up, you can see some of the stuff I've been putting in here is coming back, right? So at any point, if I want to come at a higher level and start adding details, okay, and start doing stuff like this, add a little bit more bone structure through there, I can walk down and up. Okay, and then now we can start having even some more fun with this. All right, so he needs an eye, so let's throw an eye in there. Bam, perfect, sphere, done. So we're gonna resize this down. I can move this, so this is a separate piece of geometry that I'm moving. So this is how I would start building a character like this. I would just start finding out, getting that point, right? And I'm looking at certain things in the bone, like that's off big time right there. Okay, so I can say, oh, I need 2 of them, and I forgot to draw out 2 of them. So I'm going to throw one on the other side. There we go. We got one on the other side now. And now let's continue having some more fun. Let's go back up to this. And I'm going to start showing you now some other brushes here that we can use to have a lot more fun here. And I'm going to show you different ways to use this brush as well. So we got some chisel brushes in here that are going to allow us to do like, hey, you need an ear. Okay, I got an ear. You can just come in here and draw out an ear. Right, and now you've got, yes, I am making a self-portrait. There we go. That was a joke, people. Stop laughing. It's not that funny. I don't have that big of ears. I do. Right? So this is like I can throw a mouth on there, right, if I want to, and it's just drawing out and conferencing, right? So these are brushes that, it has to be done. Put a dog nose. Dog nose, man. Okay? So what this is opening up for me is even some more freedom. And this is why I'm stepping up and giving more clay, because I want to have this. Because if I walk down, right, you can see that ear shape isn't really holding as well. as when it is higher, right? So this is like a process that people would start to do. Okay, so now let's look at taking some of this and using it also different ways. So I'm gonna load something, instead of me making a skull, why don't I just use the one that ships with ZBrush? So here's a full anatomy figure. So this will be an example what artists are doing in ZBrush, right? This is all done inside of ZBrush, doing this, and we got a full skeleton in here, so I'll open this up. You got a full skeleton, so I've already got a skull. I've already got a whole skeletal system. Ryan did all the muscle. This is from Ryan Kingsling. So I'm just gonna say, let's grab this part of the skull. So right now, this one mesh is the entire skull, right? It's the entire skeleton. I wanna separate and get the skull head off and use it. So I'm gonna use this now and say, let's take this, let's grow out all that. So if you've ever sculpted in clay, when you sculpt in clay, you kind of break stuff apart. Because if you're gonna try and sculpt an arm, you're not trying to sit there and do it on your character. You're gonna take the arm off and then sculpting that with it in your hand. Just don't let it fall on the ground and accidentally step on it like I do on occasion. And then I cry. Then I say, where's the undo? Okay, so this is in essence giving that mindset of artists will do this. I wanna separate the head and look at just this and be able to work on this. So I'm gonna say actually, let's go ahead and just delete the rest of this, okay? So I only want the skull, so I'm gonna say delete hidden. And you know what, I don't even want the rest of the skeleton. So I'm gonna delete other, say yes, okay, go ahead. So now I'm back to having just a skull here, okay? So let's go ahead and let's move this to the center of the world, and let's go and use that handy dandy ZRemesher real quick again. So I'm gonna say this time for it to give it a little bit more topology. So I'm gonna say just go ahead and have about 20,000 polygons range, let it ZRemesh, right? And look at this is like a very triangulated mesh, which we can use in ZBrush, we can do whatever we want, and then boom, we got a skull, we're off and running. So you all can make skulls, done. It's over, right? So now, what I wanna do is taking this concept and ideas of, obviously if I would've kept building that skull, the one I started with, we could've kept going, but why waste our time? We've already got one. Now I wanna use this. I wanna use this a little differently. I wanna build something like kind of maybe a medallion, maybe I'm a jeweler, maybe I'm making something for a graphic. There are any ways that we can do this, okay? So I'm gonna add now, let's add a sphere to this. There we go. And let's go ahead and switch. In fact, I'm gonna switch out that sphere for this one. I just prefer it, it's a user. That's just me preferring, yes, sphere on the head. Let's go a lot bigger. All right, and let's squish it. A little like this. And let's move it to the back area here. And then now let's go ahead and give it some more love, i.e. those subdivisions that I'm looking to have. Okay, so I've now 1.5 million is what this is, which in the grand scheme of things, again, isn't too much. Now let's take this skull. Let's go ahead and size that up. Let's put it there. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of rotation. Let's center it. So we're rotating around the center of the model. And let's size that down. Okay, and I'm gonna go a little bit bigger. This is, again, my art part bug is coming into play. All right, so this is now a skull that's sitting in front of this little squashed sphere, right? And what I wanna do is I wanna take this sphere part, right? I want this skull in essence, or we'll pull it even further apart. We want this skull to actually end up on this piece in the back, okay? So I'm gonna switch to that. Down here we have some projection options, and one of them is a bas-relief. You can even turn these into any mesh into an alpha bas-relief. It can work that way as well. So it's really simple. It's literally one click button. I say project in the bas-relief and it's done. That's it. Yay, amazing. So let me turn off the skull and really show you what happened. Bam. I just have now that skull projection in that sphere. So what I'm trying to point out here is you guys can use anything. Bring in any mesh, click a button, boom, bas-relief, right? We all can make coins now, yay. All right, but you can also turn that into an alpha too. So if I look at just the skull again, you can also just adjust it. We also have it in our alpha palette. You can come in here and you can say, you can make a bas-relief this way. And what that's going to do is actually make an alpha of that. So you can click and drag that wherever you want, right? So you can have the global way of doing something. And then this is obviously more of like local way because you are now turning this into a brush that you want to control. So as a user, I would just switch to a standard, something like a standard brush, grab that, do a drag rack, right? And then we can go back to this one, and you can start drawing out, see? Draw out those skulls as well. And I can say, change your focal shift, right? So you can really, you decide what you want to do. Okay, let's keep having some fun here with this one though. All right, so let's switch to gold. So it's a little bit more nice gold look. Let's go ahead and add another piece here into the mix. So we got a little something like that. We're gonna keep that on because I want to see what's happening with this. And I'm again going to switch to a different cylinder. It's just a personal preference. Okay, so there's these type of cylinders. We have different shapes in here. And the reason why I'm switching to these is I want to open this up a little bit. And then we'll turn this off so you guys can see it. We're gonna make like this. We'll put this right about there. That looks pretty good right there. Now I'm gonna switch to something I even showed yesterday. So our ZModeler brush. So we've been talking about clay and millions and millions and millions of polygons. Okay, now we're the opposite. We're on another spectrum now. We're on low polygonal items, okay? So I'm gonna switch to ZModeler. I'm gonna say, let's go ahead and bevel. And I can start just quickly making some bevel changes through here, adding an edge loop, coming through here, doing a little Q-mesh by a poly looping, pulling things out, and being able to just make some kind of quick little nice little medallion here. So I also will bevel this, okay? And then I wanna see what this is gonna look like, because right now it's obviously, that's no good. I wanna see what this looks like divided in essence. But now what I'm doing is introducing you to something else. I'm not actually adding any polygons, right? So this is sitting at 160, but I'm showing a version that is being divided up. So we took our idea of having multiple subdivision levels and let's make it dynamically also happen, okay? So then I can come down right below our dividing. I've turned this on. I'm a big shortcut guy. I just live in the shortcuts, live, breathe, eat it, okay? So this is now saying, how many divisions do I want? So I can go all the way up to 4, so you can see how smooth it starts to get. But again, the benefit here is I'm very, very low polygon, okay? So I have very low polygons happening through here, and then I can say, you know what? What's it look like with some creasing? Okay, that looks good. I like that creasing happening through there. Let's drop the creasing level so it softens it just a little bit. So maybe that's what I'm looking for. And again, I'm playing with something that's very low, so I have the ability to keep adjusting this and moving this along. If I want to come in here and say, let's add another edge loop, right? I can insert another edge loop wherever I want and move it in through here. I want to do any beveling. If I want to Q-mesh this down, just a single polygon, I can start Q-meshing things down, right? And make a hole if I want to. So this is allowing me, this is what Q-mesh is, not so much a extruder per se. It's more of something that's going to allow us to just move faces. And in fact, this makes me want to have some more fun here. We can do some symmetry, radial symmetry over here, my favorite over here, my boss's favorite over here. Start moving that in, creasing that, and now I've got it, boom, happening across everything, right? This is the benefit. You're combining now multiple workflows. Okay, let's continue playing with this. Let's make this look a little bit better, cooler. Let's have some more fun with this. So let's append something else again. We'll append a cube again, and then I'm going to switch it to this cube in here. It's just, again, I just like this because if I'm gonna make something, changing my spans really quick, we'll go a little bit smaller through here. And then now I'm gonna introduce you to something else again. I told you guys, this is gonna be a switchblade show, okay? I'm trying to give you as much as I can. And it's our micro machine guys. You guys are really rambunctious today, I have to say that. It's really, really good to see smiling faces. And when I mean that, you're all looking like this. Thanks for coming up. All right, so ArrayMesh, okay? This is an instancing system. So I want to put like some other design elements around this thing, okay? So I'm gonna say, how many do I want? Okay, so I'm gonna say, let's start with 8. I don't know. I don't even know how many I want. I wanna start with 8, okay? And I'm gonna say I want this to rotate around this. So I'm gonna go to my rotate. I'm gonna say along my Z, because that's what I'm looking at my camera. I wanna go 360 degrees. And then now we're gonna have cubes rotating around, right? And as I do this, I get more or less. So you can see what's happening. But here's where it starts having more fun. I start pulling it off away and then now start using this to shape, make another little design element in here. Let's go a little bit smaller, something like this. And once again, I'm gonna start changing the shape of this, really quick and saying, okay, I like where that's coming. Let's go ahead and divide it. This is the dynamic thing coming back into play, right? So do I want it to look like this or do I want it to look like that, right? This is where now I'm making a decision as the artist. And I like to say my buzzword of non-destructive. This is a non-destructive workflow where I'm not married to this has to look like this now. I can go back and forth and change things if I want to. I can say, let's crease it, get back that design a little bit. Let's drop the crease level. Let's put up again more smoothness. No, we don't need any thickness. Let's not go there right now. Okay, and add some of this. So now I'm softening up those edges a little bit. Okay, and then let's go back to some ZModeler again. Let's go ahead and now inset this. Let's do a single polygon. And then here's going to be the benefit of us having ArrayMesh. As you can see, what I do to one, it does to all of them, right? So whatever, I'm really only working on the one that's on the top. ZBrush is handling the rest of it for me, right? So it's nice to be able, like I've found this to be really a great design element for me because looking at this and this, even in this scenario, I'm like, do I want this number or do I want more of them, right? Or even just go crazy. Or, like I've found like I don't know what I want and sometimes this tells me what I want when I see the design of it. I start figuring out, okay, that's the number that I want to have on this little medallion thing that I'm making here in front of us. Okay, so let's do one more thing again. We'll add another element in here. We'll take this cube and then we'll size this one down as well. And then we'll do a little bit of this. Okay, and that looks good. We'll go right about there, yep. And then let's go back down to ArrayMesh. Once again, let's do this. Now, you have the ability, I can go up, copy the above one, and then paste it. So now these both have the same exact array happening. Okay, so as I move this one, they're gonna line up, see, with the other parts. So I'm copying and pasting one array into another to try and make some cool little design element in here that I wanna have. Let's add another thing in here. Let's add a torus this time, or a ring, as we will, and then say, I want that to rotate. Say something like this. Let's make that a little bit bigger. You know what, I don't like this one. I don't like it. I don't like it. Again, freedom, swap out, right? I'm just swapping out stuff and just creating. It's really about having that design freedom with inside of ZBrush. Just kind of come up with whatever you want, right? And then again, doing something like this, let's say. Let's smooth that one down. Okay, and then now I'm gonna do again another ArrayMesh, but this time I'm gonna do a little bit of a different ArrayMesh. I'm gonna say, how about let's do 6, and then let's do a scale change. So let's go 2, well, not 23. Who said 23? No, 2 by 2 by 2, right? So now I'm changing the size of this over time, right? And then I can adjust this and it's happening as a unit, right? Because they're arraying. So really the only one that exists is the one that's in the middle. The rest of them don't actually exist right now. And then I can say, well, let's have some more fun with that. Let's also do a little offset, and this time I'm gonna switch to my other tool here. This is our transpose line, okay? That allows me to move things, so I can move them in space as well. And what I'm actually doing is moving the sliders over here without actually touching the sliders, okay? So you can see there's a lot of flexibility with this system, allowed to just shape things out, figure out what I want this to look like, keep adjusting things, moving things around, and then there you have some kind of nice little medallion. I'd probably, for this case, I don't like the faceting that's happening, so I'd probably go up and more, right? And then I can render it out, and then now we've got a render happening in ZBrush that's in seconds, and we can use this render. And in fact, just to have a little more fun here, sticking with this idea of designing things, I'm gonna go to our filter system here. So we've got rendering systems, NPR, is non-photorealistic actually, where these are just preset filters that you can actually double click, and then we'll turn the render into this. So like, hey, I want a blueprint of it. Yeah, it's a blueprint, yay. Right, so these are filters that we have. These can be adjusted in real time as well, because once the render's done, I'm just loading ones that we've done, some artists have done. This is someone trying to make it look like kind of oil painting stuff, someone trying to make it look like watercolory look. So there's a lot of different presets. There's something to look like pencil, old school for us that used to have to draw on paper in school. I don't think my daughter even knows what line paper is. Okay, so things like this opens up lots of freedom to just really, it's an 8-bit, it's Nintendo. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so moving on. So there's just a general workflow for you guys. Again, we started with a sphere, and I just kept expanding upon it, expanding upon it, expanding upon it. So continuing on this process, I want to be able to maybe make something else. So how about a dragon? Okay, so these are what we call ZSpheres. So you got to start somewhere, and anytime you're creating, whether it is you're going to be. So we really focus on that idea. Where is an artist going to start, and how can we get them immediately in being in their workflow, being artists and being creative as fast as possible? So Dynamesh was one way. This is another way. Okay, so these are what we call ZSpheres. It's going to allow us to shape things around. So in fact, let's even bring in another image in here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to import an image that I have. Dragon reference. Okay, so, and then I'm going to say, I want this image, right? So you can see that dragon reference image. I'm going to put this one now also on the floor. So we'll turn our floor back on. And you can see we have these, like the skull. This is what it was doing. It has just images of the front, back, left, right, because as you rotate, you see the back side, then you see the front side. So we're swapping the images as you rotate. So in this scenario, I only want to use the dragon. So I'm going to turn most of these off. I don't need them, right? So you can click on them, turn them off. You can pull whatever images you want on here. So just so we don't have a distraction, I'll turn these off for now. And then let's go and say, take that dragon image, right? And so you can see now that you have this, how do I get to just a basic shape of what I'm looking at in an image, right? So this is what ZSpheres can help me do. This is where I prefer using ZSpheres. So you think about, when I was doing the skull, that's simple. It's just a head, it's just a skull. This is not simple. This is a creature or a character, right? There's a lot more going on. So for me, a ZSphere makes a lot more sense to start shaping. So this is really easy to use. I'm just going to start moving and then scaling and rotate this. So what I'm going to do now is say, okay, this needs to be probably the main portion of the body, somewhere around there. And I'm going to start using hotkeys now to start positioning this where I want, okay? And then now I can go back to draw and I say, okay, I want one of those, another one, and now I got another one, and then I just pull this out. Let's go here, let's put another one there. Start shaping that out, moving that where I want, okay? Now there is, here, we'll turn the image off. So you can see there's 3 Z-spheres, and in between there's chains. And so what I can do is I can actually click and add even into the chain, start moving that around. And this is about moving as quick as I can, okay, to start getting that shape that I need to start matching this. So of course, this is why you also would want to start scaling things up, moving them around, getting exactly where I want. Right, we're going to need we need a neck, got to have a neck. So let's start putting that in. So you think about this almost like bones a little bit, right? I'm building kind of the bone structure of this from the image, in essence. Okay, and then now we go to the front. We'll put one there, and I'm going to I'll put that one right about there. And then coming down for the front of the face, just making another one. And again, I'm switching up the top. I'm making shortcuts. So as you can see, if you watch up here, I'm only switching between these modes up here is what I'm doing, right? And then let's put a little tail on this. Why not? Come off. And then to make it simpler for me, I will go ahead and just move it all the way out here. And then now I'll just add some spheres along the way and then just move those into position. And then once again, I need to start tapering and bringing this down, stuff like this, right? And start getting that shape. Oh, we need legs, obviously, okay? So you're gonna be able, I would say I wanna put the legs right about there, okay? And then I'm gonna draw out, and now we're branching off another direction from these Z-spheres that I started going off of. And now I wanna put that in, and now this will be forming a leg, right? Start giving me that form that I need. Add another couple Z-spheres, start shaping that up. And then remember, the goal here is not trying to make it perfect, it's about getting a base of something, right? I got to start somewhere, and then the Z-spheres are allowing me a freedom to just start quickly blocking out something. So once we have these done, we need to be able to do something with them, i.e. we're a sculpting application. I want to be able to sculpt on all this. So we'll turn the image off now. Yes, it's cartoon dragon now, right? So what I want is now the geometry. Boom, there you go. So these Z-spheres get converted, and now I have the ability to sculpt on this if I want to. It's that simple. Okay, so this is using Dynamesh once again. So by default, it's going to use the Dynamesh ability. So I'm just turning this preview on and off. Okay, and right here, there's a Dynamesh slider, so I can even turn that off and hit preview, and now you get completely different geometry. So there's flexibility and freedom here, right? So now you can see you're getting something that you were getting more from like ZRemesh, or nice, clean flow, topology. And then now this is where the point where I break off and start wanting to sculpt on this and start making something. So because of my time, I'm gonna just move on to the dragon that I started messing around with and show you guys some features with this, right? So this is all starting from a ZSphere and being able to just start quickly shaping and figuring out where I want to go with this. And in fact, ironically, in ZBrush, there's actually a brush in here that already has dragon skeletons. So this is, again, from a user, Damien. So you can actually, there's a skull cranium right there, right? And then throughout here, I'll show you it this way, there are multiple things. Like there's the complete head skull. You can actually rip it out of the brush and then have the skull ready to go and start forming from this if you want to. Okay, so it's an idea of combining things now. I can start now with this and go, let's now take ZSpheres and Dynamesh and let's make them work together. Let's have them start working together. So I'm gonna append a ZSphere. So now it's sitting here in this space. And then I just want to start maybe quickly again, once again, now combining all this. I'm going to quickly just put a little bit of some geometry in there. We'll go right about there. And let's start building off of this, coming down and start building a neck, right? Some volume through there. Put this up, coming around. So this is now giving me that, right? So now I got this new topology flowing through here, okay? So this is, I want to use this skin. So this is a skin preview to allow us to keep changing and adding things. And yes, you could even use these to pose inside of ZBrush if you want to. So I'm going to make that a skin. So right now I've got this, and I'm going to now append the skin I just made of this. So here's the skin. And then now I'm going to go ahead and even merge these down, hit OK, and now they're all one, okay? But the key point here is, if we go to the poly grouping and we do an auto group, they're all separate pieces of shell still. Okay, so like the cranium still is not connected in any way, the horns are not connected, this piece that I threw together real quick is not connected. So this is another benefit of me wanting to use something like a Dynamesh. I'm gonna say I don't want this, this, I don't want those, I don't want those, I don't want those, right? So I can hide and show what I do and I don't want. In fact, I'm going to say, let's get rid of even the teeth. Let's do something like this. This is all I want. So let's split this off. And now that I have this, they got this parts are now, so you can see they're gray. These are their own subtool, is what we call them now. They're their own mesh, right? So I'm going to come back to this. And then this, when you start to sculpt on something like this, all right, and you start to build up, the clay brushes will definitely build up, but you notice as I start smoothing, you'll start seeing a little bit of shape. See, like that shape just disappeared and went in, right? So if I'm really gonna sculpt on this, I'm gonna start from here with a dragon. It would make more sense for me to tell it, let's weld everything together. Let's make it one big clay right now. And that's one of the things that Dynamesh is also gonna do for us. So I'm gonna throw on a Dynamesh and now it's welded. Everything's together. And now as I'm sculpting across, smoothing, I can start backing again, bony landmarks, and keep re-Dynameshing and getting rid of things, start adding more clay, start building up the volume quickly, and boom, we're off to the races now and running, right? So I just start placing things real quick, okay? We'll turn this off. So you can see how quickly we can start getting something pretty fast, switching, and then now we're just taking this another level, okay? And then again, I'm a big fan of these trim dynamic, whoops, I don't want black, and start just landing some marks for my eye to see things really quick as I'm sculpting. I want to be able to really see some kind of really important landmarks in this piece. And in fact, I'm going to even fill this in a little bit, okay? Because once again, we're going to go back into our VDM brushes, okay? So we call them, they're chisel brushes. So ironically, there are some things here that would fit on a dragon, right? So we've got a couple eyes through here. right? I can start putting in an eye, and then there you got an eye, right? So this is an example of, hey, I don't have enough information there. I don't have enough clay there. This is like, let's come out of this mode. Let's go back and let's make it a clean, nice, remeshed version. So I'll remesh that, okay? And then now I'm gonna divide up a little bit. Let's give it a little bit more love. And so now when I pull something like that out, right, I start to see what's happening. Yeah, see, I'm not so good at sculpting now that you guys have seen this brush. It's like, you're not impressive at all, right? So you can start, you too can make a dragon, right? And you got a couple little horn pieces in here, start coming through here, right? You start building some stuff out. We got scales. You can start putting some scales on this if you want to. Okay, so you got a lot of different ways to be working. I'm just looking at my time right now. You got a lot of different ways to start attacking and building up this surface, right? You can even take scales like this, right? So maybe I don't want to scale like that, okay? I want to actually come across the nose a little bit. So I'm going to switch to lazy mouse in here, and I can control some things with lazy mouse. So I'm going to say, let's do a stroke like this, so I can start doing things like that, right? So maybe I just want to come across with that scale, right? And start putting in just some dynamic changes on him. Now, this is repeating quite a bit, right? So I want to adjust that a little bit. So this is where the lazy mouse is going to come into play. Like I'm liking putting something like this over his brow, kind of protect his eye even a little bit more. So in this here stroke here, I can say this stepping slider, what kind of stepping do I want? So right now I've got these scales dropping really fast on top of each other. I want them to space out a little bit. So I can come in here and say, let's raise that step up a little bit. And then now just sculpt right across the surface. And then now maybe I'm looking for something more like that, right? Just having a little bit better gap that might fit better within our dragon, okay? And coming through there. So this is just opening up now a lot of different ways I can start working. And in a sense also I have some other brushes that we have. So as a user base, there is a plugin called XMD. It's made by a gentleman, Michael Dunham. He's made a ton of brushes for you all. So you can go download them for free. He's also got an account where he just keeps adding more and more and more brushes. So it's a really great system. We made a one-button solution click for inside of ZBrush. So I'm just gonna grab a couple of them to give you guys some examples. So I'm gonna load some brushes that I have. From that system, you can actually load right from the system, but I forgot to install it. So here's a couple like even dragon brushes that he made, right? And this is an example of just dragging out, you know, some form with an alpha, right? I'm just using an alpha to pull on this. So he's got a couple really nice brushes that I grabbed from here. So here's some spikes. So this one's really nice. So this one's actually using a different technique. So I'm actually gonna duplicate this dragon and do that. And this is now, we'll go a little bit bigger, start drawing this out. I'm gonna draw a curve first and then populate, bam, you got a dragon scale, right? So speaking of all this, right, you can see how quick you're building brushes, you're making things, and live on the showroom floor, we're making dragons, right? But here's something else now, again, that I want to show. Now that I've used this brush, I want to make another version of something like this. So let's again go really quick and grab a cube and make our own scale brush now, okay? So I'm going to say, yeah, we'll make that a mesh. And once again, I'm sure you know by now, I prefer the ones in here. Okay, and now let's start shaping something up real quick. Like this, maybe do a little bit of that. Once again, I'll go to ZModeler. This time I'm gonna insert multiple edge loops. So this will insert multiple span and edge loops. And those colors are important to us in the world of ZBrush. Those are called polygroups. For those of you maybe using other programs, think of them a little bit as like selection sets, I guess would be the easiest way to explain it to you all. Because then I can do stuff like this. I can say, hey, QMesh, all faces have the same polygroup, and then they all can move stuff. That's why it's important to us. We can do a lot of really cool stuff really fast with this. So I don't need that many. That's not necessary. And just because we're all here, you can even make it interaction, flowing stuff too. There's a lot of really cool stuff inside of this brush. So I'm just gonna go, that's enough, that's enough. Okay, and now I'm going to start shaping. Just because we're live on the floor, let's show another feature. Okay, so we got our deformers. I'm using it symmetrically, actually. So this is a lattice deformer that you might all be used to, but you can see the white dots are not available on the other side because I've told ZBrush to actually not use those dots. So what that means is whatever I do to this one over here, it happens to the other side, right? So this is working symmetrically, which for me as an artist, I'm gonna wanna have that symmetry. Just quickly shaping this again, doing something like that. Okay, that looks good. Let's do an inset. Let's do a flat island. So I want to take all these green ones right here and just do an inset real quick. Okay, so our inset by default, we worked really hard on this, so the triangles are being made is actually a good thing. This is making sure that volume doesn't change. So there's different types of actually insets that we've made. So you have a bunch of different ones that you can have. This has been a big one for me, our recent add to us. So you can add things like this, right? You can create an inset of stuff. And then I can say, all right, let's take those, Q-mesh that, and say polygroup all, push that in. And then now we're gonna start getting like a little scale start to happen through here, right? And then I'm gonna say, let's take this and let's start adding some volume inside the scale, right? And once again, I'm working really low to make some big adjustment and changes. And now to the fact of, I'm gonna go once again into ArrayMesh, okay, because I love to now combine these. This is really what it's all about too, is taking these features and it's like an onion, or like, if you're like me, a fat kid, a cake, it's layering, layers. God, that joke usually hits. I'm bad today, I'm off today, let's go. All right, so I wanna now do another rotation, okay? So I'm gonna say, let's do, I don't know, again, 12, I don't know. And then we'll do rotate, and then we'll do this time along the Y. Okay, so I'm gonna go 360 degrees along the Y, okay? And let's see, well, in fact, I made this backwards, upside down, I think, when I did this. So let's see where I'm at in this. Let's see what axis I wanna be on, actually. Okay, so you have all axes here, so I actually want the Z, because I built it the wrong way. Shame on me. Okay, and then now, pulling this out to start creating a nice repeating scale going on through here. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's enough, okay? And maybe even can play with the rotations. But I'm now gonna do this. I'm gonna say, how about let's add another version of that? Let's add one more. So what I've done now is I made another stage to my array. So now I'm not just doing a single circular shape. I've got the same exact thing again happening above. So I can even do this, and I can even repeat these as many times as I want. So what this is doing is taking the first, it's like a child-parent relationship. It's taking that first array and then making that exact same thing again. Because then that's what I want to do, because I want to sit one of these. I want to sit this row kind of on top, right? And then I want to rotate it so I can look from above and kind of rotate, because scales need to have an offset to them, right? So you can either do it by here or you can do it by the slider over here. Now this is what I mean, what I love about this system, the ArrayMesh for me, is there's a lot of overlapping, but the beauty is, once again, we are only looking at the one, that's it. So I can keep adjusting and getting this where I want it and start even making them do I want a little bit longer? Do I want shorter? Like, what do I want these scales to really look like? And then I can even continue messing with things and say, let's Q-mesh. Let's do, again, polygroup all, pull this out. You can change things around. I can say, how about this one? How about we just do one, right? You can add a little spot in it in the middle, right? And then it's gonna happen to all of them as we're going along here. So I wanna now turn this actually into a brush, okay? So I'm gonna say, let's take these and let's not have them be instances anymore. So I'm gonna say, let's make that a mesh, okay, and then make that a mesh. So now it's a unit. So they're all, as you can see, my polygon count has changed. And now I'm gonna say, let's go brush, let's create an insert. I'm gonna say new. This now allows me to draw out as many of these as I want, okay? And then what I'm going to do, and here we'll switch to, so you guys are gonna be able to see this better. We'll switch to a plane. We'll make that plane there, and where are you? There you are. There you are. Here, let's use this guy. There we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna say, I've got these drawn out, But what I'm going to do is tell it, let's make this go along something else. Let's make it go along a curve. Okay? So then as I draw out, I get a bunch of them, just repeating over and over and over again, right? So here, I'm going to turn off the color so you guys can see it better. Right? And now what I want to do is play with this even a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to say, what do I want? I want my curve stepping to change. So let's try 0.8, because I want these to actually start overlapping. So I'm going to say that's not enough. So let's go even lower. Let's try 0.6. And then I can just touch up there. That's looking good now. It's starting to get in the right position where I want those. And then I'm going to add one more other element onto this. I'm going to say, how about I have it even taper? So I can start having them taper over the curve over time as well. I don't like the direction of that taper, so I'm going to flip it so it goes the other direction. I don't like how quick it's tapering, so I'm going to come here and make a graph adjustment. Just move this dot up so that the tail part can get a little bit fatter and then not be so tapered down going on there, right? And so now that I have this brush, it's just draw whatever I want. And then you can even adjust the curve after the fact if you want. I'm even going to tell, let's add another element into this. I'm going to say, let's add a little bit of resolution to my actual brush. I don't want it to bend a lot on itself. It's a dragon tail. Shouldn't bend that much. And then now you can start moving things around and adjusting things. I can even come in here and tell it to lock down things. So I can say, lock the start and end. So as I move this, you see the rest of it? The tail's not moving now. If I come to the tail, right? This isn't moving up here, and I can move anywhere in the middle and come across like this. So I think, Matthias, that's my time, right? Except for questions. Do you guys have questions on the floor? Yes.
There it is.
Yep. Okay, so she's asking is when you're making something for a game, it's low polygon in a video game, a lot of cases, and then we're super dense. Well, now with Unreal 5, you can plop literally a 20 million polygon mesh in their engine, and you're fine. Actually, but for characters, they're going to rebuild and have new topology, and they're going to use like normal maps and cavity maps and things like that, which you can create normal maps inside of ZBrush. So they would take, they would go all out, sculpt everything crazy, and then have the game-ready version, and then you can come in here and we have displacement maps, texture maps, and normal maps, and then that's what would go in the engine. So you're going to take, in essence, you're going to take the sculpt and make it live in the map. That's all you're going to do. That's it. So that's going to be what you would do in that workflow. So depending on the gaming studio you would work at, they might start, here's the game-ready mesh already, everyone's already using it, this is what you're starting with inside of ZBrush, and now go work on that. And then you're good. Or artists will just go, who cares? I'm going doing whatever I want. Then I'll make the game-ready mesh. Then I'll make the maps. It really comes down to the studio, who you're working for. Are you a mobile game? Are you like a AAA game studio? But I'm telling you, Unreal 5 is a game changer. Like, that's a big-time game changer. Like, the fact that we can just plop models right in now without engines. And I'll be honest, I've been to a lot of studios where some of them are even just using the ZRemesher version, and that's what goes in the engine. They don't have to be so low polygon anymore like they used to. Like, they got a lot more freedom now, especially at a triple game studio. And then they're using multiple UDIMs now too, multiple UV sets on a game character too now. Did that answer your question? Okay, good. What else? Spagoli?
More
Bueller.
from the live audience.
Bueller.
If not, we'll go to the internet and they'll take over.
Oh my
You
God,
guys
be
know.
careful with the internet.
I know, they already
Yes.
they started where? Here we go. In the front, Anthony. What do you got?
I'm fascinated by the foundation you have of anatomy, and just if you could speak a little bit to that foundation and the good things that we can do to build up
Yeah,
that reference.
absolutely. Fantastic question. So this is always an ongoing question. You don't need, I do not know anatomy like a doctor or anything like that in that sense. Like, I couldn't name all the bones and stuff. You don't need to know that. Know it in an artistic sense. The most important thing is your bone structure, understanding major bone landmarks, and finding things that, if anybody that lives in Vegas, one of the best people you can train and learn from is Andrew Cause. He's here in Vegas, Anatomy Tools. He holds workshops. He's holding one right now with Sir Richard Taylor from What a Workshop is there as a guest sculptor teaching people, right? He's one of the best on the planet. Scott Eaton's one of the best on the planet to learn from. They all have classes that you can learn from. So I'd say anatomy, don't overwhelm yourself like every bone, every muscle. Like figure things out. Like Da Vinci gave us stuff like our eyes, besides having an extra eye here, there's actually 5 across, and that's the furthest point. The zygomatic, this bone, that's the furthest one that sticks out the furthest, and that's the only way I know that. It's 5 eyes, and then he flipped them, and he found out if down the body, every major bony landmark is 5 eyes as
Away
an
from
artist
the next?
down the body. Yeah, so like it starts at your sternum, goes, yeah. Andrew showed me this, and when he was doing it on the model, I was like, dude, trust me, watch. He was like marking the model and going, holy, are you kidding me right now?
5 eyes.
Yeah, it's 5 eyes, and for artists, landmarks.
Okay.
Okay, not a human body, it's artist landmarks, right? Which are important for me. Where's my mandible going? To the sternum, to the bottom of the sternum, 10th rib. That's important to me as an artist, because that's what you all see when you guys are moving. It's your 10th rib. You don't see your 11th and 12th, it's way back here, right? So those kind of things would become important, right? Understanding that, the basic stuff, and then you can start going and taking away a little bit at a time. If you want to see me after, I'm going to be in the back and give you some other recommendations as well.
Artist landmarks.
Anybody else here?
We,
I like
we
the
can still
live
go
people.
live. Yeah, we can still
Jessica,
go live. You get
Anthony.
priority over the internet. Sorry, internet.
paid to be
we
here.
still love you.
You paid
still
to be
love
here.
you. But
Or your company did, I don't know.
all right, moving on. Someone was asking, is there any way to control the pivot point of ArrayMesh?
Yes, you can use either the sliders in ArrayMesh, or you can actually, my preferred method would be, I don't know if I have any of the array, here we go. My preferred method is using the actual transpose line to control it. So if you turn on your transpose line, on this one here, we got to undo, get back to an ArrayMesh, there we go. So in ArrayMesh, I turn this on. This transpose option is just telling ZBrush, when I turn on the transpose, use it as the GUI for ArrayMesh in essence. So in this, there's going to be, oops, help if I didn't turn it off. See that yellow circle right in there? That's so you can move your pivot point. So you can either come here, use the sliders, or you can come over here, and then this is moving the pivot point. See, that yellow circle
Nice.
is my pivot point. If I had more time, I would show you something really cool to do all this with, but
But they can always visit you in the
Yeah.
back. Sorry,
Yes.
internet. In-person bonus.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Let's see here. What does the convert to nano mesh button do in ArrayMesh?
oh, it's going to convert all your array meshes actually into a nano. So it's going to take these, and it's going to take each one of these. So here, we'll take one of them. And they're talking about converting a nano. So what that's done is nano, nano, nano. It's now a nano. And what a nano is planes. So it's another instancing system. So in essence, each one of these scales don't even exist now at all. And they're all sitting on a plane. So really quick, really quick. The easiest way to understand this is like this. Watch, I'll show you guys very fast here. Let's take this. Let's take a brush. Where are you? Let's take this. I'm going to convert this into a nano. Okay, and then now I can draw out. And what this is doing is drawing out anything in here that I grab. It's drawing out on the actual planes. Okay? And so what else is really cool is I can take something like this and go wee, and actually even paint
Wee.
with it. And you got to make that sound effect when you do this at home, people.
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work
It
unless you
doesn't
make
work.
the sound effect. So in essence, that's what it's doing. It's taking my scales and turning them into a nano sitting on an actual polygon. That's what it's doing.
Very cool. Moving on.
Yes.
Let's see here. Can models in ZBrush be opened in Element 3D? The answer would be yes, because of the export options, like FBX, OBJ in Element. So you'll be good there. Just make sure you use those export options. It's not opening ZBrush files natively.
No.
Let's see here. Next one, Matthias, for characters, can you rig as well? Can you rig
Yes.
within ZBrush as
Yes.
well?
ZSpheres are the rigging tool. You can use ZSpheres to rig. Then we have a plugin called Transpose Master that allow you to take, because again, you're in a different world when you're talking about millions upon millions upon millions of polygons. So we have something that allows to take all the meshes. So this is actually made specifically for posing. It's going to take all the meshes, turn them into one. You pose your character, and then you kick them all back, and we'll kick it back.
Awesome. And last, 5 eyeballs or five eye openings, left or right.
Five
Is it-
open eyeballs, not closed eyeballs. Like it's 5. The gap that you would have in an eyeball. It's the same thing with an eyeball. Doesn't go past your orbital bone. Stuff like that you learn. Because that's why we have an orbital bone, to protect our eye. That's why we have them, right? So those little things is all you need to know. Yeah, so it's 5 just eyes. Like yeah,
five regular eyes.
Yes.
Don't get fancy.
Don't get fancy.
Just keep it simple.
No anime eyes, regular human eyes.
That's very, very different. All right, everyone. Paul will be in the back. And I think this is the last day, right? We don't have you any tomorrow.
Yep,
so
I
if
leave
you do
tomorrow.
have ZBrush questions, ask Paul. He will be here
Thanks for
the
coming.
last of the day. And stay tuned because we have next the man, the myth, the legend, the rocket lasso himself, Chris Schmidt. He's going to be showcasing a lot of the new stuff in R26 within cinema. So thanks again. Stay tuned. We'll see you in the moment, Internet.